Thanks, Green. On immigration, we've talked to so many Border Patrol agents and leaders who are just really worried and anxious about the possibility of Title 42 ending next week. Big picture, what is the administration doing right now to get ready for that?
So a couple of things that I want to lay out, and I kind of laid this out before, but I want to reiterate it here, is that, we're doing the work. We're going to do this in a safe and humane way. And we will have more to share on the proposed preparedness next week before the December 21st date. But look, we also need Congress to act. It is important that they deliver the resources we requested for the border security and management. They need to pass the comprehensive immigration reform that we have put forth. On day one, the president put forth a comprehensive reform plan that dealt with protecting for dreamers, cutting down the asylum buildup that we've been seeing, especially because of what the last administration did, and they completely gutted the system. And we know that this has been a multi-decade-long problem. We need to modernize the system, and this is something that the president has put forth, and we are looking for Congress to act. We are asking Congress to act. And so, but in the meantime, what we have been able to do is the president, as I've mentioned before, has secured historic funding. We have 23,000 border security agents at the border, and that is the most amount that we've ever had. And that's because of what the president has been able to do. And we have worked to launch a historic anti-smuggling operations that are taking thousands of smugglers off the streets. But look, the reality is we need Congress to take action. We need to do this in a bipartisan way, as we have done, as the president has been able to do more than 200 times during his administration.
There's been some reporting out there that the administration is considering changes to the asylum policy, potentially making it so that only someone can only apply for asylum if they've already been denied from another country like Mexico. Is that true? Is the administration considering any changes to policy?
So look, I know there's a lot of rumors out there about that, a lot of speculation. I don't have anything to announce at this time or from here at this time. What I would encourage people to do is to read the Department of Homeland Security. They put forth a 6-point plan on how they're going to move forward with dealing with the post December 21st deadline when Title 42 indeed lifts, but don't have anything more to announce about any new plans from here.
Thanks, Green. DHS warned in a memo obtained by CNN this week that the end of Title 42 will, quote, likely increase migration flows immediately into the U.S. So I'm wondering, how many migrants are you expecting to try and cross into the U.S. through the southern border next week? And is the administration prepared for this anticipated surge?
So look, we have an intensive all of government effort underway to prepare. As I was stating earlier when I was being asked a question by Mary, we'll have more to share ahead of the December 21st deadline. But in the meantime, DHS is surging resources to the border. As you've seen, as you're probably seeing in El Paso, I talked a little bit about this on Monday, where over the last 72 hours, they've moved thousands of individuals out of the city. They're doubling down on the anti-smuggling operations that the president launched months ago. They're also working with our international partners to discourage disorderly mass movements across the border. Moving forward, expect us to continue leaning in on our successful strategies like these and like our parole program for Venezuelan nationals, which has drastically reduced the number of Venezuelans attempting to enter unlawfully, and will continue to drive messaging in the region to counter disinformation from smugglers. So that's another thing that we have to keep an eye on, is how the misinformation that's going to be going out to smugglers in the next couple of days. And so we have to make sure we'll work together with all of you, our team will, to make sure that doesn't happen, because that is one of the big issues that we're seeing when it comes to migrants trying to cross the border.
Are you aware of this warning from DHS, and do you have an estimate of how many people you're expecting will try and cross the border when Title 42?
Look, I don't have an estimate to share with you. What I can tell you is that the Department of Homeland Security has put out a 6-point plan. As you all know, my Secretary Mayorkas was at the border just recently to talk about this plan, put out a statement. And so we are focused. We are focused and we are prepared. We will have more to share in the next coming days on this piece. But again, we have done the work from this administration by securing record funding, and we are asking Congress to act. We are not asking for political stunts. We continue to see political stunts from many Republicans out there, and that's not how we're going to fix this issue. They want to secure the border. We've been doing that work on our own, and we're asking them to, hey, you know what? There's an immigration reform plan that the president put out on the first day.
Certainly, Senator Kennedy.
Mr. Chairman, I think you mischaracterized my questions.
Oh, no, sir, I wasn't referring to you at all.
I'm glad to hear that, because my questions of the judge were, and I never got an answer, did she agree or disagree with the recommendations?
Senator, I was not referring to you at all. You've asked that question, and most nominees have given the same answer as these nominees, but it's your right to ask that question. And so I was referring to this so-called report involving the Supreme
I
Court.
was too. And if you have a second round, I'm going to ask it again.
Well, there's
Does
no plan.
does the judge agree or disagree with the recommendations?
Senator,
I'm not really interested in how many lawyers can dance on the head of a pin.
Senator,
I'm just interested in hearing whether the judge agrees or disagrees.
Senator, you're doing the same thing that we've done when the tables were turned. Try to get these nominees to say what their personal views are, and most of them think it through and believe that they can't do that, and it makes them sound as if they don't have a personal
Well,
view.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's the purpose of the Judiciary
Well, you're
Committee.
entitled to your opinion.
Let me just finish my thought. I'm entitled to my opinion. I mean, we're confirming these nominees for lifetime appointments. They're not elected. You don't think it's relevant what they believe?
I think you create a problem for them that jeopardizes their role as judges.
When I just ask them what they
Well,
believe?
May I finish my thought?
Certainly, I apologize.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that they understand that if they start expressing their personal views, as Ms. Chung has said repeatedly, it's a forecast of the future, and they're trying their best to say law, facts, precedent, and stick with it. And I think that's what we expect of judges.
Well, I just disagree, Mr. Chairman. I think people's personal beliefs, have they thought about the world? Have they thought about the issues that are central to American democracy? I think that's perfectly appropriate. I'm surprised that no, and this isn't meant to be personal, but that you haven't directed them, the witnesses, to answer our questions.
We asked the same question to Trump nominees and got the same response. This is a predictable course of action on this committee. We try to probe as deeply as we can, and witnesses don't always go along with the extent of our probe.
Well, recently they never do.
Well, under Trump's nominees, they never did either.
Well, I questioned them too, as you recall.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I just, since I think that last back and forth was directed implicitly at me, I think you factually misstated the record, though. I'm wrong.
Let's get this straight, because I.
Well, can I just, yeah,
Sure.
so here's, I think, maybe I'm wrong about this. I thought that the justice was the co-chair of this Diversity Strategic Planning Steering Committee, and that entity issued a report to the Delaware Supreme Court. You said that some group made recommendations to the justice. I don't think that's right. I think she co-chaired a committee that made recommendations to the Delaware Supreme Court, and her testimony's been the Supreme Court hasn't acted on those recommendations.
Let her respond.
Sure.
It is correct that I'm the co-chair of the committee that made the recommendations, but what I was trying to clarify is that there's a subgroup. There are 5 subgroups that made recommendations. During those deliberations, the the co-chairs, myself and the Chief Justice, did not make recommendations. We did not identify specific recommendations for people. We didn't strike down recommendations for people. We didn't say, yes, we like those. No, we don't like that like the other was. We allowed the subcommittees to create their own recommendations. We didn't change the recommendations at all as they went into the report. And those recommendations went in as is to the Supreme Court. And as the entire Supreme Court, our analysis as the Chief Justice and myself would be with the rest of the Supreme Court.
Understood. My only point, Mr. Chairman, is, and I think what I heard Senator Cruz's question, I can't speak for him, I'll just speak for myself. My point is that the Justice co-chaired the panel. I think it's reasonable to ask her about the content of the report that they made. And if she doesn't want to answer the questions per your exchange with Senator Kennedy, that's fine.
Suggestion is she's dodging the question, how much more explicit can she be? The presumption seems to be that she wrote the recommendations, and it's clear she did not. She said it repeatedly, and you won't accept it. That's just a fact. And so it is an unusual situation, but best I can determine, she gathered the information and passed it along without a vote of approval or without any scrutiny on her person.
But, Mr. Chairman, I just respectfully disagree. I don't think that's not what I asked the witness. I asked her, does she agree or disagree with the recommendations? Forget the report.
That's another question, Senator.
But I never got an answer.
Oh, and I don't think you would from a Trump nominee either.
But we don't have Trump. I pressed a lot of Trump nominees, as you well know, and voted against a bunch of them. And they helped kill 4 or 5 that I didn't think were qualified. But I don't agree with your revisionist history, no disrespect, in the last 10 minutes. I asked the witness 4 or 5 times, do you agree or disagree? And I didn't get an answer. Now, you can call that dodging the question. If you want to, that's a little pejorative to me, but I never got an answer, and I don't think that's inappropriate for me to ask. That's the issue.
Senator, by virtue of your position on the committee, you're entitled to ask what you wish. I'm glad you had that chance.
But that you're comparing.
No. You asked me a question and I'm answering. Do you want me to answer?
Sure. Mayor, hi. I wonder if you would react to this poll that was just out this week on the mayor's race. It does show that you have a steep climb. Can you share what you see as your path and what polling you've done that refutes this premise?
Well, here's what I would say. About 4 years ago this time.
You weren't the mayor then, Mayor.
Well, 4 years ago this time, if you let me finish.
But that you're comparing.
No. You asked me a question and I'm answering.
That's annoying.
Do you want me to answer?
Sure.
4 years ago this time, polling showed that I was about 1%. And, there were bigger names in, more money, and here I sit. Fast forwarding now, somebody took a poll for their preferred candidate. You all need to ask, did they simulate a real campaign? Did they run negatives against that? Well, as I understand it, they won't release the crosstabs and show what this was done. And I think there's some question about the methodology of that poll. Look, you're going to see and hear all sorts of stuff between now and February 28th. What I'm focused on is doing my job, making the case for why I deserve 4 more years as mayor. And I hope what you all do is anybody who says, I'm the front runner, I can beat the mayor, ask them, have they done the work to challenge with their negatives and simulated a campaign? And because I know what the answer to that is. And I feel very confident in my chances for re-election.
Could you also give us an insight into why it is very obvious you're not as available as you used to be taking questions? How is that turning on the light as you promised?
Well, I think I'm pretty available. I'm out and about. I'm out multiple times a week in neighborhoods doing interviews with reporters. I invite you all to come to the events that we have out in the neighborhoods. Many of you don't show up.
Your campaign has made some hay of the donations that came from Sam Bankman-Fried's money to one of your challengers, Chuy Garcia, but you stood with the company representatives back in the spring when they broke ground in Fulton Market. What is your connection to FTX, and is there some money that you need to be returning?
I have no connection to them, and I didn't take any money. But I think that it's fair game. Some have called Mr. Garcia the front runner. It's fair game for him to answer questions about what his connection was, what was his conversation with the now indicted and alleged fraudster who took investors' money, misused them. I think the public deserves to have answers from him, and it's not acceptable as a congressman, as a candidate for mayor, that he will not answer any questions directly. And you should hold him accountable. If he's the front runner, hold him accountable.